In 2026, thrifting in Vancouver is no longer just a way to save money. It has evolved into a cultural identity marker, especially among Gen Z and millennials. What you thrift, where you thrift, and how you present your finds now signals something deeper about your values, aesthetics, and even social positioning. At the center of this shift lies a quiet but meaningful divide. Mass thrifting spaces like Value Village versus curated vintage boutiques across neighborhoods like Main Street and Gastown. Thrifting has officially entered the mainstream. A 2025 Canadian study found that 77% of adults purchased secondhand items in the past year, with Gen Z and millennials leading participation at over 80%. What was once stigmatized as a necessity-driven activity is now normalized across income levels, driven by affordability, sustainability, and the thrill of discovery. Yet within this shared practice, two distinct thrifting identities have emerged. The first is the Value Village thrifter identity, rooted in accessibility, volume, and unpredictability. Stores like Value Village represent what many call the pure thrifting experience. Racks packed tightly, inconsistent sizing, and a near overwhelming selection. This environment reflects what researchers describe as the treasure hunt appeal. Over 70% of Canadians say they thrift to find unique items and enjoy the experience itself. For many Gen Z shoppers, this chaos is not a flaw, but a feature. It rewards patience, creativity, and a sharp eye. On social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram, this identity is often tied to authenticity. Viral thrift haul videos, sometimes tagged Shark Thrift Finds or Live Vintage Haul, show creators proudly displaying $5 jackets or unexpected designer pieces found in bins. These posts emphasize skill over spending. The message is clear. Anyone can build style if they know how to look. In this sense, Value Village thrifting aligns with democratized fashion, where individuality is built through effort rather than curated consumption. However, the second identity, the curated vintage shopper, has grown just as rapidly, especially in urban hubs like Vancouver. Curated vintage shops carefully select, clean, and display secondhand clothing, often focusing on specific eras, Y2K, 90s streetwear, or aesthetics. Unlike Value Village, these spaces remove the uncertainty. You are not digging, you are browsing. This shift reflects broader changes in the resale economy. The second-hand apparel market in North America is valued at $24.8 billion in 2025 and projected to grow rapidly, fueled by younger consumers seeking both sustainability and personalized fashion. Curated shops capitalize on this demand by offering not just clothing, but a pre-built identity. Walking into a boutique on Main Street is less about finding something random and more about stepping into a specific aesthetic, whether that's minimalist, archival luxury, or streetwear revival. For Gen Z especially, vintage shopping has transformed into a form of cultural capital. Recent media analysis notes that Thanks, It's Vintage has become a kind of status symbol where rarity and curation signal taste and knowledge rather than thrift alone. In this sense, curated vintage shops blur the line between thrift and luxury. Prices are higher, but so is perceived value, not just in quality, but in identity. The tension between these two spaces reflects deeper social dynamics. Value Village thrifting emphasizes effort, accessibility, and sustainability, while curated vintage emphasizes aesthetics, convenience, and cultural fluency. One celebrates the process, the other sells the result. Yet, this divide is not purely aesthetic. It is also economic and ethical. As thrifting becomes more popular, critics argue that increased demand especially from higher income shoppers, can drive up prices and reduce access for those who rely on thrift stores out of necessity. This concern has been widely discussed in both academic and media circles, particularly as Gen Z's interest in thrifting continues to grow rapidly. At the same time, both forms of thrifting contribute to a broader circular economy where clothing is reused rather than discarded. Over 90% of Canadians now participate in this cycle through buying, selling, or donating secondhand goods. In a city like Vancouver, where sustainability and cost of living are constant concerns, this matters. Ultimately, the distinction between Value Village and curated vintage shops is not about which is better, but about what each represents. One is rooted in discovery and accessibility, the other in curation and identity building. Together, they reflect a generation redefining consumption, not just as a necessity, but as a form of self-expression. In 2026, Vancouver thrifting is no longer just shopping. It is storytelling.